After a long silence, Errol Spence has finally called for a rematch with Terence Crawford.
To be great,
this comes after Crawford recently claimed that Spence is a substandard fighter. Although it seems late to pursue a rematch, Spence has decided to take his chance and call out the two-time undisputed champion after facing repeated
everything
disrespect
that I've
from
accomplished, he's still trying to accomplish. You know?
Do you not think Spence will be in the Hall of Fame?
Right now? No, how?
Yeah, he's right, dude. He's right.
How? You know, he fought in one division. You know,
he never unified the belts.
He unified.
Right. Then y'all gonna say it was because of the accident. Right.
The first fight didn't go well for Spence, and it's one of the main reasons his reputation as a boxer dropped significantly. His disappointing performance is something that won't be forgotten. Unfortunately for Spence, many in the boxing community now define him by his fight against Terence Crawford.
You know,
he called for a rematch on social media while responding to a clip where Crawford was asked in an interview if Spence deserved to be in the International Boxing Hall.
What I'm saying is, they already called him a weight bully, right? He beat Kell Brook coming off of a loss, an eye injury. You know, he beat Sean Porter.
In all fairness, he had to go over it.
Crawford disagreed, saying that Errol Spence wouldn't be a Hall of Famer if he retired now. This comment led Spence to fire back at him on social media. Feeling disrespected, Spence suggested that it might be time for a rematch.
People have taken credit away from me just to try to diminish my accomplishments, just off of pure hate. So what would they be able to say with me going up 2 weight classes?
People say, oh, well, maybe it was the weight or whatever the case is. What do you think about that? Like, talking about the weight at 154?
Well, I wasn't worried about that. I felt stronger than him. You know, I felt that I punched harder than him.
This must have affected Errol Spence, whose last appearance in boxing was when he promoted a fight featuring a boxer from his own promotion for the WBA lightweight title. Since his 2023 loss to Terence Crawford, Spence has not returned to the ring. Many believed Spence and Crawford were evenly matched, but Crawford dominated the fight, giving Spence the first loss of his career. Spence now has a record of 28 wins, 1 loss, and 22 knockouts.
You know what I mean? That's a good win. Like, I don't want to sound like I'm hating on him or, you know,
I understand
things like that, but I honestly don't know if he make it to the Hall of Fame.
Spence recently admitted on social media that the worst decision he made as an athlete was drinking. His post also caught the attention of Gervonta Davis, who is set to fight Lamont Roach tonight. Spence advised athletes to stay focused on their goals for a better future for themselves and their loved ones. Despite his loss to Crawford, Spence has had an impressive career, but his last fight increased criticism. Some fans believe he is no longer the same fighter, which led Spence to respond on X, formerly Twitter, saying, "Some of y'all use 'he washed' too loosely. Post y'all mama so you can see what washed really is."
His game plan, and he did what he had to do.
Was the unified welterweight champion before his loss to Terence Crawford, holding the WBA, WBC, and IBF titles. He reigned as champion from 2017 to 2023 but hasn't fought in nearly 2 years. However, at 34, fans can still expect him to face a big-name opponent when he returns. Meanwhile, two-weight undisputed champion Terence Crawford has stirred controversy with his recent comments about Spence. The two fought in 2023, where Crawford dominated in a one-sided victory. Since then, Spence has yet to make a comeback. Although he had the option to invoke a rematch clause, he ultimately chose not to pursue.
Got all this.
Recently, Spence was in talks for a fight against WBC and WBO super welterweight champion Sebastian Fundora, but after multiple delays, the fight never happened. This led many to believe that Spence might never return to the ring. Meanwhile, Crawford's career has continued to rise, and he is now set to face Canelo Alvarez in a blockbuster fight this September. Ahead of his fight with Canelo, Crawford appeared on Pound for Pound with Kamaru Usman and Henry Cejudo, where he claimed that Spence does not yet deserve a spot in the Boxing Hall of Fame due to a lack of major achievements compared to him.
I'm definitely open to the rematch.
Crawford confidently stated on the podcast that he could retire now and still make it into the Hall of Fame, whereas Spence could not. He pointed out that everything Spence is trying to accomplish, he has already achieved. Crawford further explained that Spence only fought in one division, unified 3 belts, and was even labeled a weight bully. He criticized Spence's win over Kell Brook, noting that Brook was coming off a loss and an eye injury. While he acknowledged Spence's victory over Sean Porter, he didn't believe it was enough to secure a Hall of Fame spot. However, many fans and experts disagreed with Crawford's claim. Boxing trainer Kevin Cunningham responded, saying Spence has done enough to eventually earn a Hall of Fame spot, highlighting his achievements as an Olympian, a 3-time welterweight champion, and a top pound-for-pound fighter. Erickson Lubin shared a similar view, but he also questioned Crawford's own accomplishments. Lubin argued that while Crawford has moved up weight classes and stopped 11 out of 12 opponents, he hasn't really faced elite competition. Despite his growing Terence Crawford delivered a shocking beatdown of Errol Spence in their long-awaited unification bout, becoming the first undisputed welterweight champion in nearly 4 decades and making a strong case as the best fighter in the world, regardless of weight. Crawford knocked Spence down in the 2nd round and twice more in the 7th before referee Harvey Dock stopped the fight at the 2:32 mark of the 9th round. In fact, with how dominant Crawford was, many in the sold-out crowd of 19,000
he's chasing greatness, so why not? Canelo came up to 175 and fought Kovalev and fought the other guy too. So I mean,
was billed as one of the best matchups boxing could offer. After a competitive first round, Crawford quickly took control, showcasing his elite power, precision, and ring IQ, making Spence, an elite opponent, look outclassed. The 35-year-old Nebraskan, a former champion at 135 and 140 pounds, entered. The fight is a slight favorite and cemented his legacy by becoming the first fighter to hold all 4 major welterweight titles since 1986, when Lloyd Honeyghan upset Donald Curry for the WBA, WBC, and IBF belts. Unfortunately for Spence, a 2012 U.S. Olympian from the Dallas area, his forward pressure fighting Terence Crawford knocked Errol Spence down for the first time in 29 professional fights during the second round of their welterweight title unification bout. "I only dreamed of being a world champion," said Crawford, who extended his streak of 11 straight knockouts, including all 8 opponents he faced since moving up to 147 lbs. "I'm an overachiever. Nobody believed in me when I was coming up, but I made everybody a believer." I want to thank Spence and his team because without him, none of this would have been possible. Spence was the busier fighter in the opening round, using his jab to control the distance and target Crawford's midsection. As the naturally bigger man, he used clever footwork and a focused body attack to push Crawford back into the second round. However, when Spence overextended himself with a right hand to the body that missed badly, Crawford made him pay with a perfectly timed counter, dropping Spence to the canvas for the first time in his career. From there, the fight only worsened for Spence. The wounded champion came out in the third round, determined to show his fighting spirit. He launched heavy shots into the pocket, but Crawford easily parried and blocked them. By the fourth, Spence was bleeding from a cut above his right eye, and the difference in hand speed was clear. Crawford, calm and precise, used his was just throwing the hard jab, Spence said. He was timing his jab, and his timing was just on point. I wasn't surprised by his speed or his accuracy. It was everything I thought. The punishment continued to mount in the fifth and sixth rounds as Crawford relentlessly battered his increasingly battered opponent, leaving Spence's face bloodied and swollen. Spence went down a second time early in the seventh round from a combination of punches, then again from a precise right hook in the dying seconds of the round.
Listen, just like you talking,
it was only a matter of
doing all that talking, bro, it can turn
a famously ruthless finisher. Crawford continued to pour on the pressure until Spence was left defenseless and unsteady on his legs in the ninth. Once Crawford landed a series of 9 straight uncontested blows, the referee had no choice but to stop the fight. CompuBox's punch statistics highlighted Crawford's dominance in the ring. He connected on an impressive 185 of 369 punches, landing 50.1%, including 98 of 163 power shots at 60.1%. In contrast, Spence was limited to just 96 of 480 punches, a mere 20%, with only 33 of 296 jabs landing, or 11.1% his preferred weapon. "We were worried about the jab coming in because that's how he sets up all of his shots."
Support your fighter.
Our main focus was the jab.
Let's come together,
take away his best
make this event a success.
And the rest is history.
Instead of everybody saying every time we get together,
tasting defeat for the first time since his loss to Russia's Andrei Zamovoy in the 69-kilo quarterfinals of the London Olympics over a decade ago, reflected, "He was just better tonight. He was using the jab. My timing was a little bit off. He was just the..." The contract for Saturday's fight included a 2-way rematch clause, which can be triggered by the loser within 30 days. However, the winner gets to decide whether the rematch will take place at 147 lbs or 154 lbs. Spence has openly expressed his desire to move past the 147 lb's weight class, admitting during the build-up to the fight that he has struggled to make the welterweight limit. Still, when asked if he plans to exercise his option for a rematch, he didn't hesitate.
Because in my mind,
we got to do it again, Spence said. I'm going to be a lot better. It'll be a lot closer. It'll probably be in December at the end of the year. I say we got to do it again. Hopefully, it will happen at 154. The two fighters took part in one of the biggest bouts in recent memory when they met at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas in July 2023. Spence entered the fight as the WBA, WBC, and IBF welterweight champion with a record of 28-0, while Crawford held the WBO welterweight belt and had a record of 39-0. The fight was billed as a 50-50 matchup in the build-up, but it certainly didn't play out that way. Crawford claimed a dominant ninth-round stoppage, becoming undisputed and solidifying his place as one of the pound-for-pound best in the world. After the fight, Spence, reflecting on the loss, revealed just how hard his rival hit, needing only 4 words to sum it up. He hit me hard. He's a strong dude, Spence said, explaining why Crawford was able to dominate so easily. I got a feel for his power probably in the first or second round. You know, everybody at this top level has some type of power, but I think because my timing was off, he was catching me in between shots. Spence has yet to return to the ring since his defeat to Crawford, but he has been linked with a move up to super welterweight to face WBO and WBC champion Sebastian Fundora. As for Crawford, he is still eager for a showdown with unified super middleweight champion Canelo Alvarez. Meanwhile, a fighter who has sparred with both men has shared his prediction for their potential bout. So what they say about you then? You fight me then?
I'm gonna break that.
How important is it for you to be able to rank yourself amongst all the top guys that ever did this thing?
It'd be great. You know, that's why you take the chance. You know, this is by far the biggest opportunity, but the biggest risk that I ever took in my career.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand what's at stake, and I understand the level of competition that I'm up against, and I be like, man, come on, man. Yeah. So every time he say that, you know, I just be like gradually getting into like looking at it, like okay. And he like, he's not that big. You know, he heavy, but he not that big.
Right.
You know, and I'm just like, all right. I'm laughing.